Hey, we're Entertainment, and we're going to have to give you the full spoiler review for episode 5 of The Penguin, because there's absolutely no way to discuss this episode without spoiling major things that happen, which is unfortunate if you haven't watched the show. Of course, go watch the episode, come back, or maybe you just don't care. Either way, this will be filled with spoilers. It really will. So you've been warned. So let's get into this, because yes, we have yet another great episode. And this episode really dives into everything in terms of the twists and turns. And of course, we're seeing the consequences of Oz's actions the night that he abandoned Sofia. We're seeing the consequences now for betraying basically the Maronis. He kind of wins and he doesn't win. So it starts off with him and Vic burning his car. The front of it, of course, is damaged because Vic drove it into one of the guards with Maroni's wife. So it's them burning it and waiting to be picked up. And Victor has now decided he's gonna be fully invested with Oz. That he says, like, I'm sorry about he called it the chariot. He said, I'm sorry about your chariot and stuff. And Oz is basically going, look, a thousand of them isn't worth the fact that you came back for me. So he's like, yeah, let's kick some ass. So his plan now is, okay, he's not quite sure what to do about Sofia at the moment, but he has a plan in motion, or he's putting it in motion to get the mushrooms back from the Maronis. And his plan to do that is to kidnap Maroni's son. So that's exactly what he does. Now, while he's planning all that, Sofia is at home with the cops obviously there and emergency services, because the whole family's been wiped out, except of course Johnny Vitti. But we see the kid being taken off her. I suppose she's her cousin as well, because it was her cousin's daughter. Being taken off by basically Child Protective Services. And a cop who's I can't remember what he said, chief or something. I think he's a chief. He was actually in the Batman. I don't remember him being in the Batman. I really have to rewatch that movie to kind of remember a few of the characters. But he was in the Batman. He's the guy who played one of the three main guys who tried to do the cover-up in the Chernobyl series. Like, one of the guys who told them to push ahead with the test at the power plant. The guy with the mad smoker's voice. Him. You'd know him when you see him. But he's there, and he's almost gloating over Sofia about the deaths. And it's great, her clap back to it, because she's like, he says something to her about the deaths. He's saying, there's the other survivor other than you was Johnny Vitti, but we can't find him. Do you know where he is? And she's like, no, I was out. I hadn't come back in until this morning to find the family. And of course, her excuse for why she was out in the glass house with the kid is, she said they were starting to have a fight, and hinted at the rumor of the affair between her uncle's wife's name. I can't remember what the character's name is now. Is it Trish or something like that? And Johnny, and says, I didn't think little girls should be hearing that type of conversation. And then he basically goes, it's a bit strange, isn't it, that it's a bit sus that the whole family was wiped out with gas. And this when she's like, is that a question, or are you hinting at something? And then she's like, are you just all jealous now or upset because you're off the family payroll? And she really sticks it to him. She's like, basically going, oh yeah, you'll be off the family payroll. Are you going to go down and share photos of my dead relatives to your colleagues, or are you going to sell them to the gazettes? So she's really great, and he's like, oh, we'll be thorough. And she's like, yeah. She actually has Johnny chained up in the tombs. And it's starting to freeze. So what she's going to do to get him, she wants money, untraceable money. So she basically says, you can either help or you can die and all this stuff. And he's obviously he's not really willing to help her. He thinks she's absolutely nuts because he's literally like, who wipes out their family? So you're thinking, is she gonna torture him? Is she gonna kill? Like, how is she gonna do this? And she basically has a bucket with her, and you're not sure what's in the bucket. And she starts saying to him like, "Oh yeah, it's starting to freeze, all this stuff," and takes off the lid, and it's just water. She dumps the water on him because it means he'll freeze, and he'll freeze quicker. So he basically convinces, and he starts talking to her, where you see there'll be an image in here of her lying on the slab having a cigarette, and this is her waiting for him to decide while he's freezing. And he starts talking about her mother and how her mother is Johnny's cousin and all this stuff, and of course she doesn't like him talking about her and stuff, but it somewhat convinces her to listen to him, and he basically agrees to help her. And the way he kind of does it, and it's like you can see he's trying to maneuver his way into a position to either take her out or to just be let go. And it's by telling her, you're going to need people, you're going to need backup, and I can get that for you. I can get you the respect that you need and deserve. And that's how he kind of angles his way. Oz goes and sees Maroney and the wife, and obviously has the photo with him of his son tied up and stuff, and basically says, alright, I'll give you him back, I want the shrooms back. And like the Maroneys are going nuts at him. He's like, hey, remember what you're talking to, what I have, and all this stuff. By the way, if you're wondering, I can't remember whether I've ever said this or not, but Maroney isn't in Arkham, he's in Blackgate, so that's where he is. And the cops seem to be a bit more corrupt in there than they do seem to be in Arkham, because he's trying to convince them, I want my product back, you stole from me, all the rest, I'll give you the son back. And he's like, how about we just make it intimate, just me and you? And he's talking to the wife now, and she's trying to convince in foreignese, whatever goddamn language they're talking, to Salvador that, hey look, he's full of shit, we need to take him out. And he's like, hey, remember what I have, what's the deal? And he says he'll let her come with one guard. So they agree to this, but as he's leaving, it's the first time you know something's up, because the first time he doesn't just get up from the table and walk out and we go to the next scene. We follow him, and he goes through the first gate, and he turns, and he's about to go down the stairs, and there's a guard there, and he takes out an envelope and goes, the one who's with the person in the red jacket, and hands that to him. So you're thinking, did he just pay him to kill the wife, or Maroney himself? Salvador, I should have just said. Then he goes down the stairs, and he's about to try and leave the prison. He's like, hey, come on, some of us have things to do. And the guard's just not paying attention. He's like, what the hell is he? And he sees on the TV that the family, the Falcones, have been wiped out. So that's where he finds out that they've been wiped out. So now he knows what Sofia's just done. He knows what he's about to do to Maroney. So he gets Vic to go and start watching his mother, that he wants to make sure she's safe, because again, she's dementia and stuff. So he sends Vic there. So Vic does go there and has a bit of a conversation with her. When he walks in, he can't find her. The TV's blaring. He goes into the kitchen. There's something on the stove. Don't know whether, like, it's a pot, but you don't know whether she was actually cooking or something. That clearly has been on for ages, because he goes to grab it and almost burns himself. The fridge is wide open, and she's sitting in the room, her bedroom. He walks in and finds her, and she's like, oh, there you are, I've been waiting, what do you, come on over. And takes out a baseball glove, what do you call them, the mitts, the catcher mitt, and says, do you remember this? This was yours growing up. And Vic tries to say, like, I'm Victor, I'm not Oz. Oz sent me to look after you. And she kind of, I know who you are and all this crap. And then she's like, oh, so I asked my son to see more of me, and he starts sending strangers. And he's like, tries to explain to her, no, he's just sorting things out. And they see the Falcone story, and she asks, did Oz do that? And he lies to her and goes, he did, yeah. And she goes, don't lie to me, you're not very good at it. He goes, I'm telling you the truth, yeah, he did it. And she gets all excited and goes, great, now we can make our move. You know, it's time to make the move. So while all that's happening, we go back to Sophia, who's getting ready. There are other parts with Oz. I actually forgot to say before. Yeah, oh, actually, no, we haven't got to this scene yet. But Sophia is kind of getting ready in a room, and that doctor from the prison, who's our therapist now, comes in. He's all, like, he's gone a bit weird, and he wants to be a part of what she's doing. He's like, I see in your face after killing your family, like, the release, and I want to feel that release too, you know? I can help you. And you're like, what is this dude's angle? There's a weird angle with him. There has to be. We go back to Oz, and he's got the Maroney son, and he's holding him in the prostitute, basically, whatever her name is. I can't remember her name. Her apartment, and she's freaking out over his betrayal of Sophia, because she's like, you stuck us in the deep end with this, because she knows all of our names now. She's like, she knows my name and the 3 girls' names. And he's like, he's trying to convince her, like, nothing will happen to you. And obviously she doesn't quite believe it. And he makes the deal, he made the deal to bring the son back to the Maroney's and stuff. So he is going, but he's going there to get the shrooms back. But obviously the girl, whatever her name is not happy that you know, that the kind of deal with Sophia is up in the air now. So he goes to get the shrooms back. While that's happening, we see the guard coming in. Maroney, Salvador, is in his cell, and I think he was finishing brushing his teeth, and the guard comes in behind him, and he looks up and turns around to the guard, and the guard goes, this is from Oz, and stabs him. And you think, oh, he was taking Salvador out. Bold move. While that's happening, Oz comes up. Him and his guy arrive for the deal with Maroney's wife and stuff. So he's shown the product, and he's like, okay, my friend here's going to jump in and take the car, and we'll send your son over. And she's like, that Jeep's going nowhere until he's over in my possession. So he's like, fine. So he's sending him across. Now the son, he's duct taped, like his mouth is duct taped, and he's chained up and stuff, but he's soaking. And she's like, take the duct tape. And he goes, trust me, sweetheart, I'm doing you a favour shutting them up. So he sends her across, and of course you knew there was going to be a betrayal. The door starts shutting behind Oz, and her men come out and start shooting at them. He takes them out. Why is the sun dripping wet? Because, as you probably guessed it, he's covered in gasoline. So Oz just drops a lighter, and the fire just goes up, and of course she's there and realizes what's about to happen and goes, oh shit. And the two of them go up in flames, and it's a horrendous death scene. And like, it's not a quick death scene. Like, you're seeing it happen, and you're hearing their screams, and Oz is just standing there watching with this little smirk on his face. And then Sophia comes in to the room. She's now dressed in her mother's jacket, and we find out her mother's maiden name. So her mother's name was Isabella Giganto, or Gigante. She comes in to the room, the big room with the big table where they always have their meetings, and Johnny is there, and all the guys, including the doctor guy, he is there. She comes in, and Johnny's like, hey guys, quiet down, Sophia has something to say. So she comes in, and she starts talking about her father saw all of these guys as nothing but cannon fodder. They were all expendable. And she's like, you were no different than the family and all the rest. And she's giving them all this big speech about, like, you were always looked down upon. The father did this and that, but you guys were the grunt workers. You did all the work. And she says it's time for change and stuff, and that the Falcone name is dead. That her father's gone, and his name shall never be spoken of again. And this is where Johnny kind of gets a bit, hang on, like, what's going on? And she starts saying to the guys, like, you know, it's about time you guys start getting treated equally, because I'm not going to be a Falcone. I'm Sofia Gigante. And Johnny starts going, hang on now, guys, look, Sophia's a bit blah blah. And right as he's talking, she just pops him in the head in front of them all. And that's the end of Johnny. It's like, dead. So now you have Salvador Moroni was stabbed by a guard. His wife and son have just been set ablaze by Oz. And Johnny just got shot in the head. And she takes out a big bag of money and pours it on the table and goes, you guys are about to get equal cuts, you know, because you did all the work. This is my father's money. Yous are more entitled to it, all the rest. And one guy goes to reach over and he kind of stops the guy that's sitting right next to Johnny and kind of goes, Miss Gigante? And she's like, yes. And he takes the money and she goes, go on. And all the guys just jump in to start taking the money. Then we're with Oz. Oz arrives back now. I forgot to mention when he burned the two Maronis together, it set off like a haline system. And the problem is it killed the mushrooms, which he didn't know until he got back to his yard. And there's 2 buckets that had lids on it, so he only ends up having 2 buckets. While he's there, he gets a phone call, and the phone call is Salvador. He survived. He also has now escaped Blackgate Prison because the guard had keys on him. So now So now Oz is shitting himself because it's like, uh-oh, now Sofia's out there who's gunning for me. And Salvador just survived an attempt on his life. And he's like telling him, you know, Salvador's like, you know, you're this, you're that, and you're cooked. And that kind of makes Oz go, what an interesting thing to say. He goes, why don't you try phoning your wife? I bet you she won't answer. He goes, you don't know who you're screwing with. And hung up on him. But he goes into a panic and immediately phones Victor and tells him, get my mother out of there. You gotta go somewhere safe. So he's like, well, where? He goes, I don't know, but you'll have to find somewhere. So Vic twigs where he could go and tells Oz, like, I'll find somewhere and I'll contact you and let you know. So he brings her back to where he used to grow up, his area. Now he doesn't take her to his apartment block, but he takes her to another apartment block. Now, the guy I said that we met in, I think it was episode 2 or 3, whichever one we met, Vic's family. That guy we do see again in this episode, and I think it's going to lead to something interesting in the next episode. He's called Squid. I believe that's what he's called. And Vic spots him and he's like, oh shit. And he's trying to sneak past him and he's telling Oz's mother, like, come on, don't let him see and stuff. But as they're going into the building, he does cop them. Now, Vic doesn't realise that he saw them, but we see that your man Squid sees them. Now, that doesn't come to anything as of yet, but that is what it is. So, we do have Oz arriving back. Oh, he goes to see the hooker again, and she basically tells him that she's leaving, that she's getting the hell out of Dodge and stuff. And he's like, what the hell, like, I thought it was you and me to the end and stuff. And she's like, yeah, when the deal was beneficial for both of us, and basically it's not that anymore. And you could see he was almost about to snap and kill her. There's just this look that he gives. There's an anger, but there's a turn in his face that just shows you like he was about to snap and kill her. And why he didn't is, I don't know. Maybe he actually cares about this person. But he goes, obviously Victor found him and told him where they were, because he arrives. There's no power in this place. He arrives in. Vic is asleep on the chair. He goes in to the bedroom, sees his mother, climbs onto the bed with her, and she says she's disappointed him because things are going up shit creek and stuff. And she basically asks him to kill her. That seems to be what she implicates, you know. And he goes, no. And she tells him to get off him, and she's like, get away. You know, what kind of son can't kill his own mother? And you're like, well, now I think something's going to happen with her and the Squid guy. This is why, because Oz goes out and Vic wakes up and he's apologising, goes, oh, I fell asleep, I'm sorry. And he goes, you did good, kid. And he opens up the box she had with her, which has the mitt in it and stuff. But he finds a coin, this weird coin, in a jar of coins. And it has on it the One Fair trolley system. It's the Gotham trolley. So you're like, what the hell is that? So he takes Vic, goes to this big door, breaks it open, goes down this big dark alleyway, and you're like, are they going into the sewers? Is the Penguin entering the sewers? And they end up in this big kind of open space type thing. And apparently this was like a the trolleys are like trams, basically. But they all seem to be in this area underground. And they go everywhere in the city, apparently. You can get to everywhere. That Penguin, and you find out he had brothers. Obviously more than one, but brothers. And that catcher's mitt was actually one of his brothers named Jack. And he's telling Victor, like, look, we used to play down here all the time. You know, we ran the city basically by underground and these things. And he turns on a generator, it all lights up. And Victor's like, this is cool. And he goes, now, what have you noticed? He's like, it's warm down here, it's humid, it's dry, blah, blah, blah. Perfect place for it. And Vic goes, growing shrooms. He goes, exactly. This will be our new base of operations. And while that's happening, we have Sofia showing up to the area where our house out in the forest somewhere that Salvatore is hiding out. And she comes in, she has him at gunpoint, they have a bit of a conversation. She's like, I'm not going to kill you. And he's like, well, what the hell are you here for? And she's basically, because I'm here to end the war between our families. She goes, the Falcones are gone. I'm taking over. I'm a Gigatto or Gigate, whatever the hell that name is. And she basically says, like, you know, the guy who betrayed me and all the rest and put me in this position has just done the same to you and all the rest. And basically says, I'm not going to kill you because that's exactly what Oz wants. And says, what we do is we join forces. The families join forces. We grow strong, we kill Oz, and then we take over the city. And he seems to be going for that. So now you have this big power play. And that is the episode, by the way. So now you have this big power play of, okay, Oz now has somewhere to hide. He has the ability now to grow this new drug. But he's inadvertently caused Sofia and Salvador to team up to go after him. So he's won in one case. You know, he's taken out some of the competition and some of his threats, but he's created an even bigger threat. So another absolute banger of an episode. You know, this really is getting better. And I have seen people complaining about the last episode, like, yeah, it was just a girl boss story and blah, blah, blah. No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. If you think that you've been too influenced by everything else that goes on, just everyone complained about everything, I think you've just been too influenced, because the writing was great last week and this week it's great again, and again great performances. So that is the full episode for Penguin episode 5. Only 3 episodes left. Will Batman show up? There was no reference to him, by the way, in this, but will he show up in some form? Will we see the bat signal hit the skies? Don't know, but I'm looking forward to the next episode. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.